Fanatic, you're my day. Anti-bell Charles, you accepted. Anti-bell Charles, you are the way. Les nous sentir paniquer. Tout fanatique, yo qui est avoué. Bria palais, pepino monte. Bria palais, pepino ale.
Are you ready? Are you ready to talk about how we can help the vulnerable members of society, our children, the elderly, and differently able? Are you interested in small business, education, job creation, and the environment? Then it sounds like you're ready. You're ready for Let's Talk Progress, a new uplifting show on Q95 every Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Hosted by United Progressive Party. Together for progress.
Today I'll never give up before it's not in my blood.
Don't give up.
Are you ready? Are you ready to talk about how we can help the vulnerable members of society, our children, the elderly, and differently able? Are you interested in small business, education, job creation, and the environment? Then it sounds like you're ready. You're ready for Let's Talk Progress, a new uplifting show on Q95 every Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Hosted by United Progressive Party. Together for progress.
Today I'll never give up before it's not in my blood.
Don't give up.
In the presence of my foes, my head goes up and with oil, my cup it overflows. Goodness and mercy all my life shall surely follow me, and in just forevermore, my dwelling place must be. Goodness and mercy all my life shall surely follow me, and in Jehovah's forevermore my dwelling place shall be. Goodness and mercy all my life shall surely follow me, and in Jehovah's forevermore my dwelling place must be. My soul have restored again, need to walk those days within the path of righteousness, even for his name's sake. Yet though I walk through the dark way, yet will I fear no evil. Thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they surely comfort me. My favor, Lord, have goodness in the presence of my foe. My hand will have anointed with oil, my cup is overflow.
Are you ready to talk about how we can help the vulnerable members of society, our children, the elderly, and differently abled? Are you interested in small business, education, job creation, and the environment? Then it sounds like you're ready. You're ready for Let's Talk Progress, a new uplifting show on Q95 every Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Hosted by United Progressive Party. Together for progress.
Today I never give up before. It's not in my blood. Lift the mic, lift the mic. Holy, 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 holy. All right, folks, that is where we, from the United Progressive Party, wants to say a special greetings and welcome to all of you locked into queue at this time. Tonight being the 14th night of March 2026, that is. Welcome one and all. Welcome to yet another program from the desk of the United Progressive Party in Dominica. As I normally say, tell Paul to tell all, tell Sue to tell Lou, that yes, your program is on. And all of you out there can participate in some way, shape, or form when those lines are open. You can call in to contribute, call in to speak your mind, as it were, based on the topics to come on the discussion for tonight. And so to all of you locked in at this time, a special greetings to you and welcome. Good evening to us in Dominica, those of us in the region as well, and all further afield, greetings and welcome. Welcome to yet another episode of another program sponsored by the United Progressive Party in Dominica. Much food for thought tonight in terms of information to come, so all we ask is that you keep it locked to the sport that you got as we welcome the Creator in our midst tonight through the words of Mr. Buju Banton, basically reciting Psalms 23, the good old psalm that a lot of us grew up on, some of us know it by heart. We're just asking the good Lord above to just take full and total control of the proceedings tonight as we share with you out there. Yes, folks, the numbers to call into the studio: 449-3095, 449-3096, 3097. Those of you want to use the Digi line, it is 616-4257. Those of you overseas and want to contribute, your number 305-432-9624. We'll be opening up the lines in just a while, just in case you want to say your hi and hello or just a greetings, We have the man already seated in the house, Mr. I call him Honorable Dr. Joshua Francis. And so we'll be hearing from him in just a while as we discuss the many issues tonight plaguing us in one way, shape, or form, the good, the bad, or the ugly in Dominica. And you'll be hearing much more about the party, the United Progressive Party. Where we have been, where we intend to go. So please keep it locked. We have a very special guest tonight, none other than Mr. Lennon Matthew. No stranger to us in Dominica. Will be hearing from him tonight as this Dubar saga continues.
Brother Nasir Fontaine, Dr. IP, and crew, good evening to you guys. Keeping the spotlight on the Dubar issue. Thank you very much, guys. So far, well done. Dominicans, we need to wake up in this country. Huh? We need to. So yes, folks, just before I engage Mr. Francis tonight, let me just repeat the numbers for your calls. Just in case you want to say hi and hello to us out there. The numbers are 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, the DG line 616-4257, overseas being 305-432-9624. So whilst we engage Mr. Francis, please feel free to call in with your comment. Mr. Francis, good evening to you, my brother, in a very special way, and how are you?
Good evening, Lofty, and good evening to the people of Dominica. Those on the social media platform, good evening to you. Those who are at work, those who are at home, those who are commuting, wherever you are, a special good evening to you. And we want to thank you for joining us here on Talk for Progress, a program sponsored by the United Progressive Party. Another Saturday, another day that we are to be grateful for, another day the Lord has made as we journey into the night to rise to see another day with hope. And of course, we live with hope and grace. Lofty, I am doing well, working hard as usual. Always a pleasure to be here with you to engage the people in Dominica on national business.
True.
Lofty, of course, we have a lot to talk about tonight. We will have a guest, as you say, Mr. Lennon, to echo his views on the ongoing situation at the Dubar site. Tonight also we'll highlight on some of the progress of the United Progressive Party, and as you said, our vision for Dominica and for the party and where we're heading. Of course, there are other issues that we'll touch on, not necessarily in details because we don't have the luxury of time. We would want to touch on what are the possible ramifications of the ongoing war in the Gulf on Dominica. How could that affect us? There are projects in the pipeline, the geothermal energy project, where it is, and do we expect to benefit from it, given that the Dominican Labour Party made so many promises and gave so much hope to Dominicans that our electricity bill would decline. Of course, we also want to talk about the fact that the registration and reconfirmation process is ongoing. The registration of new voters, it recommenced on the 9th of March. I think that was on Monday. Of course, we want to touch on that. And Lofty, we also want to touch on communities that we would have visited over the past few days and weeks. And we're looking forward for engagement. We're asking the listeners to call in, engage us. If you have questions, please go ahead, ask a question, because really we're here to have a discussion on the way forward.
True, indeed. Josh, thank you very much, my brother, for your opening remarks, as it were. Let's do this one, folks, as we are moving on here. This one from the man, Mr. Cletus. This brother passed away, a musical, a cultural icon in Dominica. And so we remember him at this time. So to all of you, the sick, the shorting out there, those of you in hospital beds and can't move for one reason or the other, we at the UPP, we empathize with you in a very, very big way. Those of you have lost loved ones throughout the week or even today, our condolences, we sympathize with you just as well. To the friends, family, children, loved ones of the man Halibut, good evening to you folks out there. Stay strong, huh? Stay strong.
Oh, yeah.
Josh, this brother passed. Any comments, Josh?
Yes, of course. Lofty, I want to add my sentiments with what you have expressed thus far. We want, as a party and as a group, we want to extend our condolences to Halibut Abraham.
Yes.
As you say, an icon, an artist who made significant contributions to the cultural landscape of Dominica. And he has departed. He has left his loved ones, family, and community behind. We want to say to his family and friends that we As members of the UPP, we extend our deepest and sincerest condolences to the family. We urge you to be strong. Gentleman would have left a legacy of significant contributions to Dominica. My understanding is that he was the lead vocalist for Bell's Combo.
Yes.
And of course, in 2013, there was a Kada Slips to competition. As well as 2011, I think he was a victor. He won both in both years, 2011 and 2013. And he has left some very interesting songs behind. One in particular, I'm sure love to you. You probably, is that the one you're playing here?
This one is Powerball.
Powerball. That's it. I think that would be his biggest hit.
Yeah.
Would you agree with me?
Well, yes, some will agree with you. I'm agreeing with you. Yes.
Right. And he also wrote his songs, didn't he?
Yes, right.
So he was very creative. It's always sad to lose a loved one, especially somebody who was a good person in terms of being kind and being helpful and being progressive and making positive contributions to society, as this gentleman has done. So he has left us behind, Lofty, to continue our journey. And of course, if there's something to learn from him, is his selfless spirit. He would have served Dominica. He did not leave. He did not go elsewhere. Of course, like all of us, he would have had a choice, but he stayed there. He was born here. He was raised there. He made his contribution and he died here. So once again, strength to the family and community of the gentleman, Mr. Abraham. I think he's from the community of Maho,
Yes,
isn't that
yes,
so?
Maho.
Right. So the Maho community.
7 children left behind and his family. Yeah.
Right. So strength to you. We are here with you. In whatever way we can contribute, we're always willing, whether morally, spiritually. We do not have a backup money, Lofty, but wherever we get to help, we're always willing to help. I mean, not only families who are grieving, but in family who are in need. As a young party, we have helped and we'll continue to help where we can, because we believe that this is about progress. It's about holding hands together and walking together and crying together and walking the journey together. The ultimate objective is to improve the welfare of lives. It's very hard for us as a party to see our brothers struggling, and if we can help, we will not help. Of course, that's on a micro level. And at a macro level, that's where the party's policy comes in, and that's where the plans and vision of the party comes in. And as we go along, hopefully we'll share some of our visions with the people of Dominica.
Sure.
But let me just say, urge your brothers and sisters to tune in. For those of you who are on, call your uncle, call your friend, and ask them to join the program tonight. It's Talk for Progress. And indeed, we are moving forward for progress to Dominica. And of course, Lofty, there are others, as you mentioned, who lost their loved ones, sometime during the course of the day. There's also another gentleman who was well known. The gentleman.
Was that from Granby?
No, the gentleman from Goodwill. I think.
Goodwill.
Yes.
Steve Lander.
Yes.
Steve. Let me get that. Steve. Just not Lander. It's not.
Was it Rui?
No, Steve Laron.
Laron. Right. Correct. Right.
He owned this business in town, graphics.
Yes. So the gentleman has passed on as well. So we want to extend our sincerest condolences to his friends and family.
Yes. Steve Laron.
I think he had children. His last child would have been very young, and maybe 6 years, 7 years old, a little girl. So strength to the family. And we are here with you. We are holding your hands, and we are walking the journey with you as well.
Sure. The man Harley Bott gone to the grid beyond, but his legacy, I can tell you, will live on for a very, very long time. As we celebrate him tonight. We also had another brother, a very patriotic brother indeed, Mr. Francis, from Grand Bay. UNICEF. Matter of fact, he's a Francis. Philip Francis is his name.
Well, clearly he had the spirit of resilience, endurance, and revolution. He made his contribution, and it's good to say that he's been recognized, a very humble person. And I saw quite a number of posts on the social media platform honoring him for his contribution in the movement for ordinary Granbarians to acquire land.
Yes.
And of course, that's historical, and that will be etched in history forever. Mr. UNICEF, So again, condolences, sincerest to his family, friends, and the entire community of Granby. I think, his passing kind of sparked a debate on whether the Granburians still have that revolutionary spirit. Granby was seen as the leading community to stand or resist against any public oppression or anything that would be adverse to the public. The question is whether Granburians continue to have that spirit, or whether the leaders, those with that spirit, have since left Granby. So it's a very interesting, discussion, because right now we are being called to resist and to resist against the government when it's oppressive, and to stand for social justice, economic justice, and betterment for the welfare of Dominicans.
Siupani Vian Sukwezo. For those of the non-Patwa people out there, Siupani Vian Sukwezo. Josh, what does that translate to?
Siupani Vian
Sukwezo.
Sukwezo. If you do not have meat, shake your bones.
Shake your bones.
And what's the parable? Do you understand exactly what that means when you were to break it down? If you do not have meat, shake your bones.
Well, you have to be active. Whatever it is, you have to keep moving.
You have to keep moving. So even if you're mega, you have to move.
You have to move. You have to move. You have to move something.
You got to move. We got to move.
True. All right, folks, 25 minutes past good old hour 7 o'clock already in Dominica and the Eastern Caribbean. Mr. Jason Wright, my brother from Cochrane. Good evening to you. He says you're on the live feed. Keep the fire burning, the opposition forces.
Indeed.
To the UPP team, good evening to you. Alison Peltier, Julius Cobbett, and the others on the live feed. Marlene Shillingford, good evening to you. Simeon George, you're there as well. My friend up there in Warner, Lions Muse, good evening to you. Renwick, tongue twister here. Renwick Robin says that his brother Halibut was a real musical icon.
Indeed.
So, folks, if you have to call, now is the time to do just that. In the next 5 minutes thereabout, we're going to engage or try to engage our guest for tonight for just about the next hour, Mr. Lennon Matthew. Chiquito Thomas, good evening to you. He says, good work, my brothers. Good evening to you, my brother Chiquito Thomas. My good friend Judith from Cochrane area, good evening to you and your family at this time. Judith is at the PMH as we speak. Judith is the sister of this brother who normally comes to pray on Q95, often.
Okay.
Mr. Parilon.
Oh, very well.
His sister is not doing too well and she's at the PMH, so prayers goes out to Judith at this time.
Yeah, get well, Judith. Get well soonest. Prayers are with you.
Yeah. To the good old folks in the Warner area, good evening to you. It was very, very nice engaging you this week, huh?
Good evening.
Yes, indeed. Very, very lovely people in Warner, Josh.
Yes, and hardworking people. I was hoping to join you in Warner, Lofty, but I had engagements in court, and as such, I could not make it. But hopefully on the next occasion, and I'm sure there are going to be a number of occasions when you'll be visiting the people of Warner to engage them in discussions, understand what they would like for their community and Dominica by extension. So, Lofty, what was your experience like in Warner? How was
The
it?
people up there, I can tell you, they're very warm people, are very hardworking. A matter of fact, let me just try back and say a special good evening to my tag team on that day, Susanna
Roll.
So that lady's a gem.
Oh, yeah, she is.
She's a real patriotic sister.
Oh, yes.
Nothing is too hard for her to do in terms of groundwork.
That is correct. And she has been in the resistance for many years.
Yes.
And she has not given up. She would have had reasons to say, I'm giving up. I've had enough of that. I have been on the field toiling, and I'm not seeing the result. We have had brothers and sisters in that predicament.
Yeah.
Persons who started the journey,
Mhm.
and they felt that they were not getting anywhere. Their leaders wasn't taking them to the promised land, and therefore they dropped off. But Susanna has endured, and she's willing to endure till the end.
True.
And it's for people like Susanna, we have to be successful, Lofty. Those are people who have been selfless in the movement to cause change for the betterment of Dominica. So, Susanna, wherever you are this evening, good evening to you. I suspect that you'll be listening.
She's listening. She's listening. If I know Susanna very well, she's listening.
Yeah.
But just to answer your question in more detail, when we went to Warner, the people of Warner, I must say, they're very warm people. They're very welcoming people. Out of the number of persons that we spoke with, we did not get that sort of cold shoulder or that non-response. Obviously, we're in a battle, so we expect, any and everything. But the people of Warner, I must say, they're very warm people. As a matter of fact, a number of them we spoke to, they were engaged at the time in work, washing up the potatoes, getting their stuff prepared for market. The hucksters would come to buy from them. So they were actively active in doing work. And that is what we know the Warner people for. And some sentiments on the ground from them, basically in terms of, a new way in terms of furthering their lives, furthering their livelihoods, as it were. The agriculture is very dear to them. And so whatever, a new government, because this government has basically plateaued, can do no more.
Yeah. The government is tired. It's clear.
Yeah. So, they would need some help in terms of, advancing the cause for the agriculture. That is their livelihood, basically, the majority of them. One of the things that I got on the ground for sure is that one of the hindrances that they have, or one of the hindrance rather that they have, is the notion that there's no confirmation center in the Warner area, and that serves as a real hindrance for them getting confirmed, being on that confirmation list. So I was tasked to go and sort of sound the alarm, as it were, to the powers that be, and we as a party, whatever we can do to help in that regard by at least getting some sort of remedy for them in terms of a confirmation center, or have this mobile unit set up in the area so that the process can be much more facile, as it were.
Well, that's very good, Lofty, and you have just raised a very important issue. And that challenge for the people of Warner to confirm, to vote, or register to vote is common in several communities in Dominica. I can speak of the Kalinago territory as an example as well. I did have a conversation with the chairman of the Electoral Commission, and I addressed the issue, and he told me that the electoral office provides for mobile centers to move around the villages and to facilitate the confirmation of voters. However, I'm not aware that the election office or the chief elections officer has provided information as to when those mobile centers will be in the different villages at the time and what time to facilitate the confirmation process. So yes, that's a challenge, because imagine you're in Warner and you want to confirm to vote, and you're being told that you have to go to Maho. That itself is a major deterrent, because it means that you'd have to leave your home, you need transportation. You get to Maho, by the time you get back to Warner, you would have used up 1 hour to 2 hours. And as you said, the people are very enterprising, they're industrious, they're engaged on their farms.
Very much so.
They would prefer to be able to confirm to register to vote right there in Warner. So I think that is something that the authorities must look at.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of the facts that came out is that they said in terms of registration, there used to be a gentleman in Warner that they used to go to his home to get registered. So why now move away from that good old practice as it pertains now to the confirmation process?
Yeah. Well, we were told that person had to be trained for the confirmation process, and they trained only a certain number of people and their resources are limited. But really, again, given the significance of the confirmation process, one would have thought that the electoral commission would have provided more resources, more personnel, to ensure that stuff would have gone smoothly. After all, we only have 12 months, maximum 15 months to accommodate for the re-registration. So let us hope that this becomes more efficient. Already, the people of Dominica seem discouraged to confirm and to register to
I'm telling
vote.
you that, Josh, there's real apathy on the ground
Yeah.
as it relates to people engaging themselves in a meaningful way, really confirmation process.
Lofty, I'm not too sure whether you got that in Warner. I have gotten reasons why some persons do not want to confirm to vote. Did you encounter that in the Warner community?
Yes, I did.
And
Persons are
yeah,
basically saying that in terms of the process, they have lost confidence in the process. There's this sort of, they're just not willing to walk that road again
yeah.
because like a foregone conclusion. Having been experiencing what they have been experiencing times without number, then they're not prepared to go down that road again in terms of wasting their time. But again, it behooves us now, as people, as leaders who would want to encourage them not to give up hope, not to give in, not to throw in the towel, as it were.
Right.
And so, that is where the real task is at this time.
Yeah, so we have a lot of work to do, Lofty. We have to encourage those people. We really have to get them to understand the importance of confirming to vote or registering to vote for those young people who have never voted or registered to vote. Because without that registration or confirmation, it means that one's name would not be on the list to vote. Should an election be called within the next few months, that person would not be able to contribute towards a change of government. So I really hope that people understand, or brothers and sisters understand, the importance. Of course, the ideal thing would have been a complete re-registration. We fought for that. We advocated for that. Lofty, you're one of the leaders on the front line. You took tear gas trying to get the government to understand why we should have a complete re-registration process, But the government fell short of a complete sanitization, and now we're seeing the type of challenges we have with what was adopted, this re-registration process. But in spite of that, we need to get every Dominican to understand that without a name, without your name on the voting list, you are not able to vote. And if you do not register or confirm to vote, it is taken that you are supporting the Dominican Labour Party government by acquiescence, meaning you just accept.
True.
And voting is not something we should take for granted. When you look at the history of the electoral process in our democracies, you would appreciate that people died. At some point, only elites were allowed to vote. At another point, only men were allowed to vote. In some cases, only 21-year-olds were allowed to vote. Only people in certain statuses were allowed to vote. And that electoral equitable process took place because of patriots, people standing in their different rights in different countries. So it's important that we get registered to vote. It's important that we go there to get confirmed to vote.
Sure. All right, folks, it is 24 minutes to the hour of 8 o'clock. We're expecting a guest here tonight, Brother Lennon Matthew. Lennon, if you're hearing us, please log into that live feed so that you can make your contribution. We have someone on the line. Let's see if you can entertain them at this time. Caller, yes, good evening.
Yeah, good night. Good night, please.
Hi, good evening, sir.
Let me tell you the problem that in Dominica. You see the back I need to talk about confirmation. I talking here for 4 years, raising my hand in Gideon Lane. My grandmother had to bring my birth certificate to register. All the shit people making this do. And there are too many big men to tell them use your birth certificate. And what you want to do, you want to use the passport money to register everybody that's voting for them. Who do have the money for passport, they cannot vote. That's what they're doing.
Well, Lofty, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Lofty, I'm saying I'm very glad that this particular caller mentioned about passport. Let me say that the Electoral Commission has passed a new SRO to cause us to be able to confirm to vote using our birth certificate, a picture ID, a passport size picture ID, and a sworn affidavit. So it is no longer onerous on the electors to get confirmed to vote, you can get your passport. If you have a valid national ID, such as your passport, social security card, or driver's license, you can go there to confirm to vote. If you do not have any of the above, it is now possible for you to get your birth certificate, your picture ID, passport size, and a sworn affidavit. The affidavit, of course, has to be sworn in the presence of a justice of the peace, a commissioner of oath, or a notary public like yours truly. So it is much easier right now to go out there to get confirmed to vote. So if you have not confirmed to vote, make it a priority next week. Remember to get a witness, someone who is also registered to vote in your polling district. So get somebody, go out there in the confirmation or enrollment centers, present your documents, apply to get registered to vote. Remember, it's a process. So once you go out there, you fill in the form, it is entered on a database on the computer. When the process is completed, it means that you would have applied to confirm to vote. That information is then transmitted to the chief elections officer, and she and her office then go through the details and confirm the application. So if there's a problem, you would be called by the elections office to make the necessary correction, if or should that be the case. All right. So please make that a priority. Time goes by very fast. The election in Dominica is constitutionally due in December of 2027. However, the Prime Minister is allowed to extend it to an additional 3 months. So it means that we have up to March of 2028. We have never had an election being extended beyond and above 5 years, and that is unlikely. A matter of fact, there are more speculations that an election may be called in 2026. We don't know that for sure, but we do not want to be caught like a thief by a thief in the night entering our home. We, as they say, lofty, we don't want to be caught with our pants down. We don't want you scrambling last minute. So make sure that you get to a confirmation center and confirm your name on the voters list. Apply to get your name confirmed on the voters list. And also, if you are unregistered, make it a priority. Get registered to vote. We need you to go and do that. That's crucial.
True. All right, Josh, thank you very much. Let me just alert the listeners and viewers of the time, 20 minutes past to the hour of 8 o'clock indeed. Folks, we're trying to engage Brother Lennon here. Good evening, caller. Good evening. Are you there? Wow, this one could not wait. Let's see if we can engage this line here. Caller, yes, good evening to you.
Good evening, Lofty and Joshua Francis, lawyer.
Good evening, sir.
I am asking whether you guys can name some of the justice of peace in
the different constituencies of the communities.
Yes, especially like Laplin. We had Atido. This man died, so we don't know. I don't know which is the one that is representing him now.
Okay.
So this is the one thing that we would like to know if we can explain to the people of Dominica.
Okay, provide a list. Thank you, caller. Thank you. Very succinct point, Josh.
Yeah. So Lofty, we have an assignment.
Yes.
We are to get the list of registering officers for the different constituencies in Dominica.
Yeah, he said justices of peace, to be precise.
Oh, yes. And as far as the use of an affidavit and passport size picture and birth certificate, we can get a list of justice of the peace from the different communities.
True. Caller, yes, good evening to you.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
A point of correction, Joshua. Remember, is the photo size picture, not the ID. When you the birth certificate to register.
Caller, you're kind of breaking up a bit. What? Just repeat, please.
The photo ID.
Mm-hmm.
When you register the passport, the birth certificate is a passport size photo, not a ID.
Not a picture ID. Okay, thank you, caller. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that correction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so for the purpose of clarity, yes, if you do not have one of the national IDs, such as a passport, a driver's license, or social security card, then you can use your birth certificate together with a passport size photo and a sworn affidavit. Thank you, caller, for allowing us to make that correction.
Yeah, indeed. All right, folks, we're trying our very best to engage our guest here tonight. We're not seeing him on the live stream just yet, so I'm expecting a call, or I suggested he call in. That is Mr. Lennon Matthew to start the conversation going tonight, really the ongoing saga at Dubar. So, Lennon, if you're hearing me and the link that I sent you is not working for some reason or the other, please just try the good old telephone line and then we will try to engage you from there. All right. But Josh, in the meantime and between time, we can continue whilst we
Yeah.
try to locate Mr.
Well, definitely. We intended to talk about the voter registration process. So whilst we're on it, we could exhaust it and
Sure.
then move on.
Sure.
Hopefully, we can talk about the Dubar situation. If we do not get the gentleman in time, at least we could start the discussion because he's going to speak to that issue. But yes, this registration process is very, very important, Lofty. In 2014, one of the reasons why I gained success as the winner in the elections 2014 that is because myself and my team we registered quite a number of new voters. If I recall, we may have caused over 800 persons to register to vote. That is significant. That is very, very significant. Of course, out of that 800, maybe not all of them showed up on polling day, but they made a difference, and we can do that again. There are a number of persons who are in their 30s and 40s who have never registered to vote. We are to go out there to look for them. And when I say we, I'm not only talking about we in the United Progressive Party. For those who are listening, you are to look into your sphere, look at your home, look at your community. If you know of any person who is unregistered to vote, approach that person and convince that person to get registered to vote so that when that opportunity presents itself to vote against the Dominican Labour Party, then it will be possible. Every vote counts. We saw what happened in Castibros. Was it in 2000? And in Grand Fork constituency as well, where the difference between the winner and the loser was just one vote. It happened in Castibros. It has happened in Grand Fork. And so one vote can make the difference, Lofty. One vote can make the difference. So let us go out there on a drive to get confirmed to vote, or to cause people confirm to vote and to register to vote. Make that part of your duties and responsibilities in making your contribution to the movement, the opposition movement. Because when all is said and done, we can talk from now to eternity, but until and unless we put those basic framework in place, giving people an opportunity to go out there to vote, we're not going to get that change.
True indeed. We have some people that I just need to highlight here. Ramona St. Rose on the live feed is listening and watching. Good evening to you, Ramona. We also have Eltha Shillingford says, good evening, gentlemen, here in Connecticut, listening to hear more, and thanks for the good works that you guys are continuing to do. Alison Peltier here says, good evening, Mr. Duran, Mr. Francis, keep up the good works, you guys, true patriots indeed. Alroy Williams says, there is a particular way to take a passport size photo if an elderly cannot get to a photo studio. How can they have one taken? All right, I guess that is a question Alroy is asking. If an elderly cannot go to a studio, how can that picture be taken to facilitate the process?
Right, and that's a legitimate question. I'm aware that there are Photoshops providing that kind of service, and in some cases, Lofty, we can take the photo ourselves and to email it to the Photoshop, which would then how you say it, edit the picture. Edit it and crop it and put it, make sure it fits the dimensions of a passport size photo. So that can happen. A matter of fact, a number of people in the Kalinago territory were able to get their passports without ever leaving their home and their community, meaning they never went to Rosa to take a photo. Again, photos will be taken at their homes, and that information would then be provided to the Photoshops. They would do what they have to do. So we can do that. Again, for those who are listening, look out for the elderly in your family, in your community. Go out there, ask whether they have confirmed to vote. If they haven't, assist them. And Lofty, also, the enrollment centers, the confirmation centers, they also claim to be providing that kind of information. that kind of service. They can go out to the different homes with elderly homes, and to take their pictures and to help them out. So if you know of a situation like that, you can also call the Chief Elections Office and to get that type of service. But it's very, very important. We continue to talk electoral reform, the modernization of the electoral process in Dominica. It has been challenging, but we got to do what we got to do. At least that's what we have. The law has already been enacted.
Sure.
We cannot reverse it at this time. We just have to work within the legal framework and to get our people, particularly our supporters, to confirm to vote. Because Lofty, if our supporters do not get confirmed or register to vote, that would be a major dagger in our chances of success at the next polls.
Yes, folks, let me see if I can work a technical magic now to get Lennon's voice in. Lennon, can you hear me, please? Are you hearing me, Lennon?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm hearing you a bit low. Let me see if I could do some magic here to get you a bit louder output. You're there?
Yes, I am.
All right, good. All right, Lennon, we apologize about the technical mishap here, but you are on now, and so we would like your take as it pertains to, as you know, the ongoing issue, really deep wash issue in Dominica that has been going on for some time at this time.
Yeah.
Thank you again for your time.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's always a pleasure coming in and sharing my expertise, my experience. It's Dominica. I've been gone for a while, but Dominica is always my home. It's in my heart. And it's the human resource that helps build a place. And if all of us turn our back on the island, then what good is it? And I think we can't let the worst of us lead the best of us. So I participate whatever chance I get to share my observation, experience, and my thoughts. So thanks for giving me that opportunity. So Lofty, there are so many things, and I want to say before I start, kudos to Gary and Janelle Brisbane for standing up as the brave warriors and doing what the society is supposed to do when you are misinformed, ill-informed, or lack of information. There's no clarity from your government. People have to remember, and I was on a call, I listened to them in a presentation today. People have to remember when we put a government in office, the government comes to ask us for our power to put them in office for 5 years to work in our best interest. They go to parliament, they pass laws, there are rules and regulations. There's a reason why when laws are passed, there are technocrats in different ministry that are creatures of our parliament that are supposed to be independent, like the planning division, like the Ministry of Health, like the police department, like the courts, so that the government can work. And when you have rules and laws on the books and it's being violated or not paid attention to by the people who we entrust in making rules for us, Lofty, we in a serious state in our country. And I don't think the public really appreciates that fact. So I want to say kudos to Gary and Janelle for making that effort, using their education, using what they have learned. And I just want to remind them that this is how legends are built. This is how we learn. It's not about making mistakes. It's about learning from the process, developing the process, and improving on there. That's what we have the capacity and the capability to do. So while they go in there, they're learning things. And I think what they're going to do is, through that experience, they're going to make a new generation of geologists, environmentalists, ecologists who I hope, will continue the tradition of safeguarding Dominica. I have been on several programs advocating for the use of EIAs to ensure that when you take on serious projects, capital projects, there is the environmental impact assessment that is done. One, because development has a cost. And I give you a perfect example. The US government, the big, mighty United States of America, is going to change one of the highways, 287, into a federal highway. And it took them 15 years to do a study to understand if the project is sustainable. And what they came up with, they said within the next 10 years, it will create $50 billion worth of revenue within the area that is going to be developed. 15 years. So before they even start one groundbreaking, they've done their due diligence, they've done their environmental impact assessment, they do the things like that because one, you cover your costs, you make sure you account for all the things that can go wrong, and part of the EIA is to make sure that you put things in place to present some comfort to the people that you're building it for. The government of Dominica needs to realize that it's not in office for anybody else but the interests of citizens of the Commonwealth of Dominica who were born, more importantly, our Kalinago brothers and sisters who are the first people of the island and should benefit from any minerals, activity, or whatever there has to have in the country if we have laws governing this stuff. So that is on that premise, we have to be bold to understand that if there are projects going on, it doesn't matter what project is it, international airport, mining, excavation, quarrying, there are rules and laws in the planning division that governs how you go about doing these things. First of all, you have to make sure that you do the necessary testing, you do the necessary sampling. This has to be made public because the government agency is not a private agency. It doesn't belong to one person. So if there are documents related to the excavation or the density and suitability of rocks in Dubar, all that information should have already been presented to the public and people understand. I'm not even getting to the point where we're talking about copper. I'm talking about process and procedure. So these are the things that needs to be done. And if they're not done, then it's the responsibility of the people to ask questions and hold our government accountable. The issue here is, Lofty, the issue here is we've had a government that has consistently lied from the highest office to the public. I mean, you listen to the guys' communication. If you listen to them carefully, they're telling you what they're doing. They're not that sharp or not that, they're not even hiding the fact of what they're doing. You just listen to them and they're indicating to you what exactly is happening in Dominica. But I think some of us don't pay attention. So at the end of the day, when we see excavators breaking down an area and somebody comes and tell me that the only place that has rocks with the right density, I know it's BS. I've been a geologist for 20 something years. I studied in school. I have a professional geologist license. I didn't get it. Somebody didn't give it to me. And I didn't pay for it in some obscure university. I had to practice under a professional geologist for 5 years. And after that, I had to do an 8-hour exam to make sure that I am competent enough in the fundamentals of geology, the practice of geology, to be granted that license. And you want to hear something about the license? It's not a license for life. I have to do recertification every year, and that involves taking ethics classes, taking the continuing education, so that I can continue my license. So I have to stay up to date. So it's not coming from a place of ignorance. So when somebody tells me that the only reason we are in Dubar is because of the density of the rock, then I have to first see the plans for the airport. I have to see the specs and the drawing and what the engineer recommended is going to be used. And I know for working with engineers for a long time that if you build in a structure like an airport and it has to do with rocks that occur naturally, there has to be a lower number or a higher number that you can use for tolerance. So you don't get an exact number to say, let's say you have a density of let's say 2.5 specific grams, whatever the case may be. Then you can't go to Dubar and say Dubar has exactly that density for a rock to put in there. So I'm telling you guys, it's BS. So at the end of the day, I know the individuals who are telling you that are lying because it doesn't make any sense. Now I understand if they said, well, we're building an international airport. We need a minimum density of X amount of specific gravity, right? Then you can go to a location that has a range of densities as long as the rocks in that area does not fall below a certain density. Then you should be fine. That is common sense. So that's the number one issue. The number two issue is there was no EIA done for that stuff, a violation of the planning laws.
Lennon, permit me to ask you a question, please, before you go to point number two. What I've been hearing as well is in terms of the cost factor, taking those rocks
Yeah.
somewhere else other than Debwash and have them being transported to the site. How would you respond to that in terms of the cost factor? They want to, sort of
So so
keep that
there
down.
is a there is there is a there is a very there's a good saying in the US. It says trust and verify. So you I and that is the thing, we have too long accepted people just telling us stuff and we take it hook, line, and sinker. At the end of the day, it may or may not be an issue with cost. It may be a cost when you think of transportation. But here is the deal: we need to see if, here's the problem is Lofty. We heard the airport is going to cost $1.4 billion. Now, first of all, how did they come up with that cost? So if you had already known the airport was going to cost $1.4 billion, and Debush had not been your initial location, then why are you complaining about cost? Because you already factored in where you were going to grab the stones, right? So it may be an issue, but we need to see how you develop that cost. Is it the size of dump trucks? Because if you have a 4-ton dump truck or a 6-ton dump truck versus a smaller truck, that's a different price. Is it the distance, which we can all assume probably it's the distance, but with the distance there are different options. You can use badges, you can use trucks, you can use smaller trucks if you don't want to destroy the road like they did from Anzime to Wesley. That might be an issue with the very big trucks. If you have badges, you have a larger volume. If you carrying on badges, the cost per volume might be lower. You put it out in Wesley, in Woodford Hill out there where they were going to do that port, and transport it a shorter distance. So telling me it's going to be cheaper makes absolutely no sense. If I have not seen documents showing me a cost comparison, how did you cost the airport in the first place to begin with and say the airport is going to cost $1.4 billion? But you know what we did, Lofty? We accepted that in Dominica. And I am from based on what I have seen how this government operates, especially when they talk about capital projects like hotels, there is always an overinflation of a cost of something. And you know why? That is where corruption starts. That's where money goes into people's pocket. We had a perfect example of a gentleman who built a hotel and he came on the radio station and said the hotel was going to be how many billions of dollars. And at the end of the day, he only raised a fraction of that. $3 million came from the Chinese. I want to know who loves you that much to give you $3 million and doesn't have a stake. So you see a trend. You see, it's called circumstantial. They are telling you, they are doing things. There's one comment I want to bring to you guys' attention, and that's my frustration, because we get so wrapped up with little things and we're not seeing the big picture. Prior to awarding the airport contract, there was a festival in the Windsor Park, and MMC got a contract and decided they were going to get CR5. And Blackmore came on the public and said one of the reasons they get in the CR5 is because they have deep pockets. And because they have deep pockets, if we don't raise the funds for the airport, then they can continue the project. Well, if we all are aware of what is happening around the world right now, where my friends and my family cannot come to the United States as they please because the United States is now putting a soft embargo on Dominicans and making it very difficult for Dominicans. So Dominicans can get pissed off with their government, and as a result of the CBI program. So therefore, we are not collecting enough revenue from the CBI to build an airport. And that was the guy told us that because it was predetermined. So right now, my concern is who's raising the funds for the international airport? What is the cost to completion versus the cost spent so far? Who's asking these questions? $1.2 billion is a lot of money that is supposed to make a huge economic impact in any society. So if somebody telling me you're using my property to build a structure for me, I want to make sure that $1.2 billion is circulating within my economy so that the young people can get jobs, the Western people can sell produce. These are some of the things that we are not asking about. So before I even get to the demos, there's so many things that is wrong with us not holding the government accountable that the big picture is being lost. At the end of the day, when that airport is built by a foreign entity, what is the terms of the repayment? What is the interest rate on $1.2 billion? We'll spend the next 18, 90 years trying to pay that off. When most of us are dead and gone, our children will be in poverty still trying to pay the Chinese government for this airport. And then you telling me that these guys are coming to Dominica and do as they please without planning approval, and they insist that an area that we have known to have to, to have yeah, so they insist that an area that has known to have copper, that has known to have copper since in the 60s. We know the history, we know the record, we know what Afi Martin and those guys back in 96 fought against BHP to mine in that area. A Canadian company previously tried getting in there. Here's the bigger problem, Loft. In my experience as a geologist, a lot of these industrial countries go to places and make deals with corrupt government. And whenever minerals, oil, and these things are involved, you know who get the short end of the stick? The people, because the corrupt government take a few dollars and put in their pocket, and the people never get a dime of from it when or until it's too late. And so what I suspect is happening is my suspicion is, as I explained to you, there may be issues paying back for that airport, and the government has to find ways to ensure that it has the resources to be able to continue the cost of that airport, and that's why Debwanche is looking so rosy, because there is suspected to have copper, and according to the scientists who came from Jamaica who worked with Janelle and these guys, I mean, he did his test. He came back, collected samples, provided a report to indicate there are indicator minerals that show that the area may or may not have copper. And then finally, I don't want to say finally, but Lofty, anytime you are doing any prospecting for, or you doing any research on the extent and the availability of your natural resource, that is not done overnight. That is pretty extensive. You have to do drilling and borings. You have to do remote sensing, geomagnetic surveys. There's a whole list of things you might have to do. You have to take rock samples. So to define the size of your resource, there's a lot of work that has to be done, right? And then you have to see if it's economically viable to be able to extract some of the ore out of there. I don't know, based on the information that we have. I still can't tell that's what they're doing. I don't want to be what the government may genuinely say it's about rock, but there is too many things that don't make sense for the response that they give. It's the density and the standardized rock. And the guy, the geologist told you that the rock is not of a uniform quality. And for you to find a uniform quality, it backs the point I am making, that you need to know what is the minimum density that is required for the airport construction. So you can't go to a place and say, if I have a density of 2.5, whatever the case may be, they must provide me that entire, and I have enough source rock there to complete the construction. So there are too many things that don't make sense, and there is no data and no information, no lab data, when you, as a matter of fact, when you send samples to a lab, Loft, I can't even, in my line of work, when I send samples to let me give you a perfect example. I can't say who it is, but my client has a property they're doing some work on, and a third party is taking over that property and decide they're going to do whatever work and have to grab samples. I am while the developer grabs samples on that site, I have to go grab samples for my property owner and send the samples to a different lab than the developer is sending the samples. You want to know why? Because in analysis, there's what they call QA/QC, is quality assurance, quality control, and there are several things: your instruments, how long you've calibrated your instruments, what kind of analysis you're using. Are they out of the? There's so many things that goes behind that. Is the lab a registered or creditable lab where it is it has the necessary license? I mean, all these things go into a sample analysis. And if these things are not up to date, somebody can give me a sample result that tells me what I want to hear. You see where I'm going with that? So the government says one thing, but the government need to back up that stuff with data and information. And the
So
government cannot be encouraging foreign entities to violate the law. And when they do that, we have to fight back because the law is on our side, the rules are on our side,
yeah.
and we have to ensure that things are done right.
All right, Lennon, thank you so much food for thought. In terms of breaking the law or not breaking the law, we have in the past couple of days or so saw in the public domain whereby a stop order was issued by our local authority here, the planning division. Josh, do you have that document close?
Yes, I do. I have an electronic copy of the
Yes.
stop order. My understanding is that a few of us would have had the stop order over the past couple of weeks, but for several reasons did not disseminate it in the public. But there is a stop order, contrary to some of the sympathizers of the Dominican Labour Party, and that's where a problem lies. The loyalty, the partisan loyalty to political parties, and absent loyalty to integrity and transparency in Dominica. And the gentleman, Mr. Lennon, said it clear that when you have a project of this magnitude, there's supposed to be studies. And those studies are supposed to reveal whether the project would be in compliance with the law, whether the project, as in his example, whether it's even economically viable. We have not had any discussion about the economic viability of that airport. So far, we have only been concerned about the environmental aspect. But had there been proper planning, those are the types of discussions that the stakeholders supposed to have had with the public. But Lennon, just to address you on the issue of the Physical Planning and Development Authority, I will get into the stop order, but I want to draw it to your attention that there is a public notice inviting the public to attend a meeting. Let me just see what it says here. Physical Planning and Development Authority, Physical Planning Act 2002, Part 24. It is saying they're in keeping with the Physical Planning Act, Chapter 6305, Section 22, 2C, 3A, and B. The environmental and social impact assessment for the applications listed below will be available for viewing from March 16, 2026 to March 27, 2026 at the Physical Planning Boardroom at Lower Monbruce Road between the hours of 8:30 and 3:30 p.m. And they give the applications, applicant, Montreal Management Consultants, government, and the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica. There's an application for use of Crapo Hall Estate. The application is for quarry operations. There's also an application for quarry and crushing plant at the Stonefield Concord area, crusher plant at Stonefield Concord, and an aggregate quarry at Stonefield Concord. And the application, of course, is by Montreal Management Consultants, which is in contract with the government of Dominica for the construction of the international airport. For the benefit of our listeners, Montreal Management is a passport vendor. They have been involved in a number of major projects in Dominica. They were given a contract for the social housing projects in Dominica, as we call it, the housing revolution. It is dubbed the housing revolution. They were given that contract. They have been given contracts to construct these so-called smart clinics around Dominica, amongst other projects. And we also know Montreal Management, the shareholder, allegedly owns a property at Mont Daniel, which is now the house that the Prime Minister is staying. And of course, we know the story, the $64,000 monthly. We do not want to digress, but nonetheless, I just wanted to give the public the benefit of understanding which company we are talking about. So Montreal Management was given a contract and to construct the international airport, and Montreal Management then entered or subcontracted with CR5, this Chinese company, for the actual construction. So basically, Montreal Management provides the capital, they vendor passports or citizenships of Dominica, and they provide the financial resources to CR5. And then, as Lennon pointed out, given the known decline of sales of our citizenship, the question is, where's that money coming from for the continuity of the construction of the international airport? Our suspicion is that the Chinese are providing support, and if they are there hidden contracts? But to go back to Physical Planning and Development Authority, yes, there are information out there concerning the stop order. I'll just read one of them, Lofty.
So, George, why should look for that? The burning issue or question on the table is, let me take that back. There is a stop order in place from the planning division as it relates to that project ongoing at Dubar.
That is correct, Lofty.
Right. So that is a fact.
That is factual.
Good. Why is the project still ongoing as we speak in spite of that stop order?
Well, again, it's just a blatant disregard for laws in Dominica.
Because, Josh, if anybody in Dominica is building a house and planning comes around and says, guys, stop that project because of A, B, C, D, and D, these are the remedial actions you need to take, that person would be a real mad person, insane person to go ahead and continue that project. What now can the people of Dominica do as it relates to that particular situation, Josh?
Well,
you being a lawyer.
Yeah, well, the people of Dominica can
Lennon will be here if you in a while. I just examine some of the legal issues, right?
Well, first of all, the people of Dominica can engage in protestations. We have persons like the legend Nasio Fontaine and Dr. Pascal, who have championed their position at the Dubar site to show their dissent in the excavation of the area at Dubash, so more people can join them. We have had people like Margot, we have had people like Mr. Mate, Atherton Mate, and we have had a few other preachers, who go up there on weekdays, and we want to urge the public to join them because numbers, can make a difference.
Matter, yeah.
As far as the court is concerned, as you said, Lofty, there appears to be a recommencement of activity at the Dubash area, irrespective of the stop order. Again, that is our suspicion. We're not allowed to walk up the site. I don't know when last you went up there, but standing from the roadside and looking or viewing the area which has been excavated, it appears there have been some progress in the excavation. Again, that's our suspicion. We cannot say that we're supporting evidence. Now, if that's the case, the next course of action would be to take the matter before the court.
But even apart, let us just give them the benefit of the doubt that the excavation has ceased, at least temporarily, that is, because of that order. There are some remedial actions that the planning division is pointing out that they should take before they move forward. Have they taken those steps?
Well, we are coming to that, Lofty. We are coming to that, but I want to highlight a few things here. That stop order came in as a result of the efforts of a few patriots, these young people, Janelle Brisbane and Gary Auguste and others such as Jerry Brisbane and Atherton Mate, to name a few. Had it not been the efforts of those champions, we would not be here having that discussion. The government of Dominica, we see CR5 would have already been deep into the Dubash area, possibly into the Northern Forest Reserve, possibly destroying forest, affecting the water catchment area, and degrading the environment in the Dubash area. But thankfully, and we have to express immense gratitude to those who have caused us to be here. Lofty, what we know is that CR5, Montreal Management, and the government of Dominica actually went to Dubash, commenced excavation activity without planning approval. And that may be the precedent that is in Dominica. There are several other projects, government projects, where planning approval may not have been given. There are no questions.
Not tripping. I keep lamenting that, and some Dominicans may not have taken it in. But let me just say it again. There are, as we speak, 9 houses that the government built in the Cochrane area where I live. And based on what I could see from my vantage point from my home, I realized, George, that some things rather were fundamentally wrong with the construction of these homes. I, as a concerned citizen, in terms of safety of these people in these homes, I went to the same planning division, and pointed out some of the things that I saw. And lo and behold, the planning division, not officially, because they were not obliged to speak on the matter in terms of what is going on up there. I got information in there. Mr. Dira, what you're reporting to us, we're aware of it, but we have no documentations. And so we cannot advise, we cannot come, we cannot see, we cannot look into anything.
Right.
So as you said, precedent had been set already.
Yes.
And I guess it is just getting
It just gets in there. And who is the offender
magnified.
here? Who is the offender here? Montreal Management Consultants Development Limited. That is the same company that has been allowed to collect revenues, public funds, from proceeds of sale of Dominica citizenship, and be able to funnel those funds into private accounts outside of Dominica, absent parliamentary oversight. That is what we have allowed in Dominica. One shareholder of a company to have powers to sell Dominica citizenship, retain the proceeds of sale, and then to expend it on projects which he has been given contracts that has not been subject to the oversight of Parliament, far less the people of Dominica have in sight of them. That is what we have had in Dominica, and that is what has created murky waters. That is what has created suspicions for corruption in Dominica, and a lot of us believe that is where the Dominican Labour Party government has been able, not the government, sorry, let me rephrase that. That is where the Dominican Labour Party has been able to get the l'argent that they have been getting, because sweetheart deals. I'll give you this contract. You can break the law. It's okay. You can go ahead. We are the law. We have, the chief physical planner, I'm just saying, I'm not saying literally. Maybe I should use some other example, because I do not want to offend the chief, chief of the planning division.
We have some of these public servants,
right?
In our
Public
back pocket.
servants in our back pocket. So we can, you can go ahead. You can go ahead. But Lofty,
let's just try to pull in Lennon, based on the fact that Josh just alluded to earlier. Read that stop order. What is your take so far, based on what the latest development has been?
So I am aware of the stop order. I have a couple copies of some of these things. So I do get information, Lofty, from home. I see them. I take the time to read through it. So the number one thing, I want to go back to the EIA, because tomorrow the planning division put an announcement that they have some EIAs for the public to view between 8 and whatever time. And from my understanding, they are given 10 days to read it, and then the planning division says we're going to make a decision after that. Well, that's not how things work. That's not how EIAs happen. Like I said earlier, before you do construction, there has to have plans. And prior to the airport starting, let me tell you, there was a presentation in Wesley, and I brought this up. I was in my home doing the presentation and asked them, did they do EIA? Because the airport is being built in Wesley, but there are surrounding communities that are going to be affected. Are there environmental impact assessment done in these communities? What did you guys tell? So when you build in the structure, you have a plan set out, you have the physical structure, you have the costing, the material costing, the labor, all that stuff. Then you look at all the EIA is going to tell you what's going to happen when you have 100-ton truck moving material from Ansdimi to the airport. Our roads are not designed for this kind of heavyweight. If you have a truck that weight passing once or twice, it may not be an issue. But in engineering, there's a thing called cycling of load. So you put cycling the load, obviously it's going to destroy the road. Did you account for repairing and rebuilding that road after the airport is done? That's a cost you may not have accounted for. So I asked, did we do EIAs and involve the surrounding communities? So prior to starting the activity, you have to have public consultation. That is a fundamental part of EIAs. when you do all your surveys based on the drawings you have, like the demarche, like the whatever the case may be, then you meet with the affected party, and it doesn't have to be in the exact geography, because the airport is not for demarche for Western people. The demarche is not it's not the Carib territory and demarche issue, that Dominica issue. So you have to have public consultation. The people have to bring in their concerns. How are we doing this? What are we doing to make sure that there is not acid runoff? What are we doing to make sure, the property owners are paid? Then the people who are going to do that structure have to go back to the drawing board, make sure they address all those issues, and do another public consultation and say, okay, guys, you asked for this. Here's what we have done. Here's what we put in place. It doesn't end there, Lofty. When the structure starts, we have to know the planning division, environmental division, have to do their enforcement and oversight and make sure that if we decide we want to test effluent, to make sure that it's within the acceptable range, they have to provide somebody to go, a scientist, whoever, to go out there to grab sample every day or every week based on what the initial plan said. We have to make sure that that's being done. It's one thing to come up with all these plans, tell people you're going to do that, like what happened at Layu, put systems in place. If they are violating the law, there is a fine. But guess what? After they put all that stuff, they're violating the law, nobody goes to see if they are operating according to design, according to what they said. So that is the issue. So when I hear the planning division says, "Oh, you can come and see I mean, that's a bunch of hogwash."
So
the planning division, sorry, Lofty, is not working for MMC. The planning division is working for the people of Dominica.
Sure.
We need to remind them of that. They're not working for MMC or Roosevelt Care. They're working in the best interest of the people of Dominica, the environment. We have to remind them why they're getting paid by the citizens and the citizens' purse, because their responsibility, their fiduciary responsibility is to the people of Dominica, nobody else.
Yeah.
So when a man has a financial interest in the place, then what happens is, sorry about the Lofty, people have to understand that when you allow people to review that, if there are any deficiencies, it has to be addressed. So how are you making a decision after people look at it and read it? Makes no sense. So here lies the problem. And then the last thing you ask, I mean, Joshua said it well. If there is a stop order, the planning division is a creature of our parliament. Our parliament is a legal entity. It's a legal institution. If things are not legally binding, then nobody has to do nothing. Let me agree as a people, and we say, okay, throwing fuel in the river is dangerous. Throwing garbage in the river is dangerous. And there are no laws, no rules passed by parliament to put punitive things in place to prevent people from doing it. You cannot stop anybody from throwing fuel in the water. You cannot stop anybody from doing polluting if there is no law. What binds us? What binds us as a society? The parliament is there to pass rules and laws. We have to understand, we have to obey them. So if there's a stop order and planning is allowing these people to go, we have every right to take them to court, because it's only the court that solves disputes. And if the court is not working, then guess what we have? We have a society of chaos. It's anarchy, and people don't seem to get it. Or else you can pack your tail in your backside and become a slave again, and just work with the dictates of one individual making decisions on your behalf. And what prevents us from civil war, civil strife, is the court system. There are rules and laws. If planning has a rule that says if they violate it, they have to pay $40,000, they should be fining them. Planning cannot give them an extension when they willfully violate the law. Planning is not there to be friends with the contractor. Planning is not working on behalf of the contractor. And they need to understand that in no uncertain terms, my job as a private consultant is based on rules and laws in the state of Texas and in the state of when I worked in Florida. Let me tell you something.
All right, Lennon, in the interest of time, we have like 3 more minutes. So in the interest of time, I just want to ask you that fundamental question. Where do we go from there in terms of this unfolding saga as you wind up?
Well, Matt, I'm going to say Matt, but Lofty, the where do we go from there? That's the people have to respond. And Janelle and Gary, gave you a perfect example of what needs to be done, because what they did, they use scientific investigation. They use the own rules and laws of the state. That's your friend. The rules and laws is really your friend, and what backs you up in the court of law. When you come with these things, you have to be able to take action that can be backed up in the courts, and that is data, information, your intelligence, and staying informed, not willfully ignorant. We have rules and laws in Dominica. Lofty, I will tell you, too many people in Dominica are ignorant of the rules and laws that govern them. And as a result, they feel handicapped, not because they are not support system. It's because they don't know the rules and laws. And even when they know the rules and laws, they don't know how to apply it to solve problems. And that is our fundamental issue. And I think what we need to do is to stand up. Our men in our society need to grow some balls. Our women need to understand that the future of Dominica belongs to us. And we have a stake in deciding where it goes. We should be the ones benefiting from our sale of our citizenship, not just a few getting money in their pocket, but sustainable growth, sustainable development. And what we are doing is not trying to stop an airport. It's trying to make sure that the government does things right. So, like we had in the grammar school roof collapsing and the Catholic Church that cannot finish the building after how many years, we have the government building something that's efficient, that is there to last, and it's not costing the generations for the next 80 years to be paying back for it. That's what it is. And I think they need to understand that it's in the best interest of us and our future.
All right, Lennon, thank you, my brother. Very well said here. Much food for thought. We'll engage you some other time as your voice in Dominica that a lot of people listen to and take advice from.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the time. I got to drop off, but I appreciate you giving me the time to
All right.
share my thoughts.
Thank you.
Thanks for the
Lennon. All the
opportunity.
best.
Thank you. All right, Josh, you heard the geologist, you heard Lennon. Any wrapping up thoughts you want to have on that before
well, Luffy, let me just
before
sum
we
this
switch
up
gear, as it were?
quickly. For the listeners, for those who have not been on the journey at Dubar, but I want to remind the listeners how this thing came along. First of all, there's a construction of the international airport. I think most Dominicans have accepted that the international airport is good for Dominica. Now, that is just based on emotions, because to this date, the government of Dominica has had absolutely no consultation with the people of Dominica on the economic and financial viability of the airport. Lofty, it is basic.
Josh, let me just stick up in there 1 minute, Josh. Let me just ask Mr. Johnson Boston standby. I'll be making contact with you in just a while. An update of a press conference scheduled for next Thursday. Yes.
Right. So I want us to focus on that point, because we are talking about millions of dollars. 1.4, 1.5, you probably go to $2 billion, because of course for every project there are contingency plans for unforeseeable circumstances. Therefore, the cost of construction may increase. As we have seen, there have been challenges that has forced certain expenses that were not provided for. It is known, Lofty, that when you're going into business, you do a market research. You assess the viability of what you want to do. If you think that it's not going to be financially viable, you depart, you abandon it, and you move on, possibly to another project. It would have been expected of this government to provide an economic assessment report to the people of Dominica, because most Dominicans now support the construction of the international airport, absent any kind of economic assessment report. And we know that given the magnitude of the project, it poses significant risk. Lennon mentioned a few of them. How much is this going to cost? And how much money are we going to make? How long will it take us to make that money back? And if all the monies that are being used to construct the international airport, is it that we are borrowing the money? And if we are borrowing the money, under what terms and conditions? Are there surreptitious lending and borrowing taking place through the process? That is just one question, because I'm making that point to say that most of us accept that the international airport is going to be something good for us. But that's not necessarily true, Lofty, because we have not seen any economic assessment report in terms of what revenue are we going to generate from this. Are we going to have cargo shipping? Are we going to have a certain number of flights from Europe?
Josh,
You understand?
whilst you are suggesting a scene that I can hear some people out there saying, Josh, let us get our airport first, and then what you're talking about will come.
Yeah, and that is where the problem is, because we have to do things properly, and that's what we are bringing to the table to show that we are responsible leaders. We cannot take public funds and simply go into a project simply because it looks nice. We have to assess things properly. We have to plan things properly. So beyond that, Lofty, we then went ahead. We decided we're going to construct the international airport, and then here comes the excavation at Dubar, and a few people. I'm not too sure exactly who were the first set of people who raised questions about what they observed at Dubar. What I know is that Gary August and Janelle Brisbane were the first to come to the public to say, look, there's excavation, there's mining at the wash, and we're not aware that there has been an application by Montreal management at the planning division to excavate the area. So they went on, they got their scientific studies, they got a geologist to come and, make a report. They have had several consultations within the Kalinago territory. They have been telling the people certain things. And at the heart of this now is the question of whether there was ever approval from the planning division. So initially, we would not have known whether there was approval or not. But ultimately, we learned that there was never an application for approval from the physical planning division. But because of the efforts of those patriots, as mentioned, Janelle and Gary, and Mr. Mate and others, the planning division then eventually put a stop order. Says, look, you do not have approval to do this. Now, imagine had it not been the efforts of Janelle and Gary and so on, maybe that project would have gone on without planning approval, as I stated, as has been done with other projects in Dominica. So eventually, Montreal management realizes that the people, their eyes are opening, they're calling on the planning division to say something. So they then went ahead to put in an application for approval. At that stage, the planning division says, no, we are putting a stop order, and we want you to do certain things whilst we are considering your application for the excavation at Dubar. So I just want to read, one of the items here. So we have here date of issue December 1st, 2025, and the specified date is sometime in January. It says Montreal Management Consultants Development Limited. I just go on quickly, Lofty. The authority hereby refers to the compliance notice issued to you on December 1st, 2025, and annexed for ease of reference. Offense, the authority states that on land situated at Stonefield Concord, that is the Dubash area, you have deposited refuse or waste material, you have caused environmental damage and or affected the integrity of the environment, you have threatened and or affected the health and safety of the public by one, dumping soil material in the proximity to the Pigwa River, and two, commencing excavation works without first obtaining permission from the Planning Authority, contrary to Section 17 of the Physical Planning Act, Chapter 6305. And the remedy here is by virtue of the stop order being served on you, you are hereby prohibited and directed to immediately cease. And I want to say immediately cease and desist from carrying out or confining this activity noted above, which contains a breach of planning control or are so closely associated therewith as to constitute substantially the same activity. And it says the stop order shall take immediate effect. Earlier on, you spoke about the planning division asking the company, that is Montreal management, to remove the silt, the deposit by the Pigwa River. I don't think that has been done lofty. So there has been a failure of Montreal management to comply with the stop order. So that is very interesting. And I commend Nasio Fountain and Dr. Pascal and the other patriots who are calling on the government of Dominica to be responsible and to account to the people of Dominica, stop destroying the environment, because what we have at stake, Lofty, is a forest reserve, the Northern Forest Reserve. The excavation is taking place adjacent to the Northern Forest Reserve. The Northern Forest Reserve is a protected area. It protects forests, it protects water catchment areas. Now, that water catchment is linked with the entire Tuapito ecological environment. Water catchment areas are linked to other water catchment areas. So destruction of that water catchment area would affect the water flow, the surface water, the volume of water in the Pegua River and tributaries, to name a few. And of course, that's going to affect the ecological system. That cannot happen. We are talking about environment protection. We are talking at a time, lofty, where the world appreciates climate change and having all these discussions about green economy and reversing climate damage. And yeah, it is in Dominica. We have the dispensation of the gifts directly from the hands of God, clean water, fresh water, forests, and so on and so forth. And we have a government that is reckless, that is very callous in allowing Sierra 5 and Montreal management to take action at Dubar, which is causing destruction and irreversible damage should they be allowed to continue with this. And Lofty is not like the rocks cannot be found somewhere else. You heard the gentleman. There's no evidence to support what they have brought forward to justify the mining of the Dubar area. So we have to continue to stand against the people of Dominica and to call on the Physical Planning and Development Authority to say something, because you have not heard anything really from them. Look, now they're saying that they're going to have give the public the opportunity to come and look at these EIAs. Lofty, are you a geologist? I mean, when you go and you look at this thing, you read it, but how much value is that adding to the debate? And why is it that the planning division is only now doing this? And why is it that they want to make a decision to say, well, we brought the EIA in the public and you looked at it, and therefore to justify an approval, which we suspect may happen given the way things happen in Dominica? Lofty, the entire system has broken down.
Yep, Josh, we have to take a break at this time. I can tell you, this deep wash issue will continue. Lots of talk, lots of conversation surrounding this topic. I read the breaking of the law from the Dominica Labour Party standpoint. That is the fundamental fact.
You see their faces, but you never know their thoughts.
Mr. Johnson Boston, please stand by.
We know that dog.
Gonna have a conversation with the brother in just a while
You see their
to give us an update, a press conference from the ERC standpoint come next Thursday, the 19th.
the story.
Talking about next Thursday, the 19th, that is.
The truth will
The United Progressive Party will be up in the Warner area
be done.
with a public meeting.
Them high, I keep down inside. Truth will reveal
So yes, folks of the Warner area and the surrounding communities,
what's in here.
you guys are all invited.
What is in here, they are.
It's in the vicinity of the playing field at Warner, next to this brother's shop, Mr. Hayden, from just about 6 o'clock.
The truth will
So you'll be hearing much more of this upcoming meeting in the Warner area next Thursday from 6 o'clock. Please join us then.
Look through them, try to hide from long time gone. But you and I know that looks at it, say you still waters run deep. So watch it how you're running steep. And one time alone will prove the story. And every eyes will see. Truth will reveal. The truth will reveal. Things that are hidden. Baby, things that them high keep down in Babylon. Truth will reveal. The truth will reveal. What's in their hearts? And what is in their heart? Oh. Say the truth will reveal. I know the truth will reveal you. Oh, expose them. Expose them.
The brother said, expose them.
Let the truth be
The man Nasir Fontaine standing for the cause, he and others.
their reaction.
Brother Johnson Boston, I try reaching you. So if someone is hearing that message, please convey to Mr. Boston that is needed here in terms of a brief interview as to the upcoming press conference from the ERC's standpoint next Thursday. I'll try one more time before we bring the program to a wrap tonight. All right, but Josh, as we continue here, any other item on the agenda? We have some comments as well we have to get to as well.
Yes, there are other items on the agenda, Lofty, but I just started to get very passionate about this Dubar situation, because it is really ridiculous for a government to be so callous in the management of its environment, especially an island that is dubbed as a nature island of the Caribbean, an island where we are promoting sustainable economic development, an island where we are supposed to minimize environmental degradation, yet to improve the lives of our people. And I want to put on record that the United Progressive Party is in support of the international airport construction, even absent an economic assessment report, which is supposed to have been part of the discussion, because yeah, it is, you're using public funds of that heavy magnitude without telling us about the financial viability, the long-term financial viability of that project. What is going to be the passenger capacity? Tell us something. Tell us something about the forecast, the traffic forecast. Tell us something about cargo capacity, the revenue generations. Tell us what are the possible challenges with that project. We are not getting that information. It is not being brought to Parliament. It has not been brought to Parliament. It has not been brought on the public table for discussions. And now you're causing the abrogation or the infringement of our laws. You are not doing things in compliance with the laws. And those who are entrusted to ensure that all of us, including the government, comply with the laws, seem to be relaxed and making this appear to be so casual. It cannot be. We have to do better than that. And the reason why I commend the young people, who are standing against the government and the company MMCE in the continuation of the excavation of the Dubar area.
Josh?
So, yes, Lofty.
Yeah, sure. In the interest of time, Josh, we have some persons there. They are also part of the conversation on the live feed. And let's see if we can take some comments here and respond if we can. Wallace Sentile says, is making this comment here. If that's the case, Joshua, can this material, I guess you answered that already, or Lennon answered that earlier, but I'll still read the comment nonetheless. Can this material be sourced from somewhere else, be of the appropriate characteristic needed for the airport? That is one question the brother is asking.
Well, yes, Lennon dealt with that. There's a question of whether there's any evidence that the rocks at Dubar are the superior rocks or are the fitting rocks for the construction of the international airport. And from my understanding, the independent study that was done by the geologists from the University of the West Indies, having taken samples from the Dubar area, taking samples from other parts of Dominica, he came to the conclusion that those rocks are not necessarily the best rocks for the purpose of the construction of the international airport, hence showing that there are flaws in the argument that has been forwarded by the government to justify the mining of the area. But luckily, we have not heard the Minister of Planning on the matter. We have not heard the Chief Planning Officer. We have not heard from the Chairman of the Planning Authority Board. We're not hearing the people who we have given the responsibility to act for us, to act on our behalf in respect to lands management, in respect to planning. And planning has a duty to ensure that the use of our lands are done in a sustainable way. That's just one of their responsibilities.
True.
But we're not hearing from them.
Talking about planning, Ned Packet is saying here, suggesting here, I was asking the all important question: why hasn't the planning division intervened? He says to uphold the law. Why are civilians the ones forced to protest just to see the law enforced? This is absolutely unacceptable, he says. In any properly functioning system, the relevant authorities, Nep is saying here, should be the ones ensuring that regulations are respected and enforced, not, he says, the ordinary citizens having to take to the streets to demand accountability. When it reaches to this point, Nep is saying, the people must protest simply for the law to be applied, something is fundamentally wrong.
Well, yes, what is happening at the planning division is what has been happening with several other statutory boards, with other creatures of government. People have been compromised, lofty institutions have been compromised. We could ask, why is it that the FIU has not done investigations into persons who allegedly have been funneling government funds into their private funds? Why hasn't FIU investigated certain public servants who seem to be building huge estates and not having an income to justify their revenue? Why the IPO has not, questioned and brought certain public officers into discussions about the acquisition of their wealth? Why is it that the police officers seem to dispense selective justice at certain times? Why is it that certain persons who are clearly abrogating the law and not being arrested and brought before the court? We could ask many questions, but at the core of the answer that you will get is this society has undergone a period of decadence. We have allowed the integrity of our public institutions to decay. People seem to be serving political parties before and after the complying with laws. So we have loyalty to a Dominican Labour Party at the expense of compliance to law. That's what's happening here.
True. All right. Mr. Wallace is insisting here that we have not answered the question. Mr. Wallace, I don't know if you have not been listening tonight or other programs where a number of other areas in Dominica have been suggested that these rocks or similar rocks can be found. Gel Leon in Coliho.
Yes, the West Coast.
One of the areas been mentioned. But when that area comes up, we talk about cost, and there are other areas. So, Brother Sentila, just please stay better connected to some of the information being dispensed. All right.
Yes, Mr.
All right. I think we have Mr. Boston is calling in here. Let's see if we can entertain Mr. Boston, and then we'll get back to our closing comment, Josh, as we must bring it to a wire tonight. Indeed. Let's see if we can engage Brother Boston here. Yes, Mr. Johnson Boston, you have been missing in action for quite some time. We have been searching for you. Good evening to you, my brother.
Yeah, man, I couldn't lie to my fellow sleep.
Much needed rest.
All right, yeah. Bosso, good evening again. We have 5 minutes in terms of an update from you, the pending press con that is supposed to happen next Thursday. What can you tell the listening and viewing public?
Yes, lovely. Good night to you and to Joshua Francis and whoever else in the studio and your listeners at home and abroad. Well, basically, Thursday next week, God's willing, will be 1 year since the protest outside of Parliament, where we were just showing our dissatisfaction with what was going to Parliament at the time. And 25 of us got arrested after that. So we are having this press conference on Thursday, the 19th, which is next week, from 10 a.m. at the PSU conference room, and that'll be upstairs, just to look at what happened then a year ago, where we are now with court matters, and where we are going, and then to encourage Dominicans to go out there and get confirmed, and those who are not yet registered to get registered, and so on, because these are important in our electoral process, basically.
So what can the people listening to you guys or listening to us rather, I'll be there, listening to us on next Thursday, what can they expect to hear coming from the ERC in terms of some of the gains made so far?
Yeah, well, the ERC will show where we made recommendation to government, to the Electoral Commission, and also the government, yes, that is true. And sometimes they did not even acknowledge what we sent to them, but nevertheless, they dragged their feet and they took time, but they have agreed to some of it lately. Like, for example, now we're hearing that you could use your birth certificate with a passport size photo endorsed by a justice of the peace or notary public to say that you are that person, to confirm and to register the vote and so on. And that is a welcome news, do it, but we welcome it. And therefore, because the whole idea of the ERC is to work with the authorities, the Electoral Commission, so at the end of the exercise, we can get reform that is in the best interest
our democracy and our citizens in Dominica, that people can vote and the parties can contest, individuals can contest, and at the end of the election, you could pick up your phone and call the winner and say, congratulations, you have done well, we won, we lost, but we can work together for the country and for our people, and that's what we want, basically. So at the press conference on Thursday next week, people will hear about the ERC will continue to play its parts in the whole system of governance and education on the question of confirmation and registration. We'll be out there doing that as well. And we'll work with those who want to work with us to push that because that's very important. We'll also look at, as I said, where we are with the those of us who got arrested. We are still in court, going back and forth. In fact, on Monday, God's willing, that's Monday the 16th, we'll be again in court, the magistrate court, about 12 of us. And there's another amount that will go to the other court, the magistrate court as well, the other section of the court, later down in the year and so forth. So we'll talk about that and we'll encourage people to go out and confirm, go out and register, because that is so important if we are to bring change and if we are to maintain a vibrant democracy in the interests of everybody. So we have to participate in the process, and we'll be encouraging to do that.
All right, Boston, final question. Yes?
And just to quickly do, the party leaders will also be at the press conference, and they will say to the public where they are in terms of their own organization and their interest in the confirmation and registration of voters going forward. Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed. Well, you just preempted me. I was just going to ask you about the support from the different parties in opposition. How is that coming from the ERC standpoint, finally?
Well, very solid, because they realize that, I would say we, because I'm also in a party, but we realize that together we can work for the country. We have begun doing that, and you have heard the leaders articulate their vision on issues to improve the lives of Dominicans. You're in a Dominica where you can have security of tenure in terms of people employed. You have a country where our health system can improve and be better to support our people, our justice system. And the most important thing is to have an economy that can provide opportunities for our people, and most of our young people, to be employed so they can stay here and help to build our country and so on. So the support from the political parties and also the civic groups in the ERC is solid. We're working together because we realize that politics, yes, is politics, but at the end of the day, we all have a country to build, and we have to build it together, whether we are Labour, Freedom, UWP, or UPP.
So unity is key in moving forward.
Well, it's key, very key in moving forward, and I think the people of Dominica understand that, and they want to see that, and we ourselves understand that too. And of course, while we have different approaches, and the objective is the same, and therefore the objective is to have a Dominica that is united, and people who can work together for the good of everybody.
All right, Mr. Johnson Boston, well said. Wish the activity well. Go get your rest, as it were. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lofty, and all the best, man.
True. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
All right, folks, you just heard from the chairman of the ERC. That is Mr. Johnson Boston. I must say, hard-working Mr. Johnson Boston, indeed. Josh, what do you want to say about that press con coming up, and our final thoughts? Josh, I took note that we have not been talking about the UPP in terms of its plans and programs, but how that is. We have to make some time for that as well.
Well, definitely, Lofty, but that just to show who we are. We are not here just to promote a political party. We are here to persuade Dominicans to join the movement to cause change in Dominica for the benefit of all of us. And just to say that ERC has done a wonderful job. Had it not been ERC, had it not been your efforts amongst others, we would not have secured electoral modernization. As I said earlier, we have not really achieved what we really wanted, and we have to continue to agitate for electoral reform in Dominica, because what we have really is piecemeal. We have
George,
not gotten...
On that note, just one question.
Yes.
Would you suggest that new government, when that new government takes up the role of governing this country, that this whole electoral reform drama, we have been at it for 15, 20 years, do you see another government basically setting things right, doing the real registration that we've been talking about?
Well, definitely, Lofty. And when we speak about UPP's policies and vision for Dominica, we will definitely tell the Dominicans what we intend to do along that path. We believe in integrity. We believe in accountability. We believe that for Dominica to realize optimal living standards, we have to do things differently. We have to read corruption in public office. We have to promote integrity. And for us to be able to do that, we have to sanitize several things, and we have to modernize our laws. It cannot be we're talking about electoral reform and we refuse to tackle the area of campaign finance legislation, because that is the root of the problem here. In as much as we have gotten some kind of modernization of the electoral process, we continue to have a political party, the Dominican Labour Party, being able to enter into arrangements with companies like MMCE and to benefit from it. And that itself disadvantages the other political parties. So we have to do that. The United Progressive Party definitely would legislate campaign finance legislation in Dominica to further bring equality or level playing field in the electoral process. We do not believe that a political party should have a significant advantage over another simply because it has a lot of money and is able to bring in foreign artists and to bribe. That has to change. It definitely must change. We believe in anti-corruption legislation. We have the IPO. We have to give it teeth again. We have to put the right personnel in the at the FIU. We have to put the right personnel on the Electoral Commission. We have to put the right personnel at the Planning Division. Those changes must take place for us to go somewhere. Because in as much as we may have beautiful, viable economic plans and programs for Dominica, until we get the people who are true to the development of Dominica to hold those offices, we're going to continue to rot.
So in a nutshell, Josh, I'm hearing you saying as priority, law and order must be re-established.
That is critical, because we are going down a precipice.
Sure.
And we have to turn this around. We cannot and ought not to promote corruption to a point where government is allowed to breach the laws. The government is supposed to be the custodian of the law. It's supposed to champion the law. It's supposed to glorify the law. It's supposed to celebrate it. And it's supposed to be the leader in compliance of the law. But when you have a government that is helping to commission breach of law, there is a problem. We have a prime minister who said on public record that no law and no constitution can stop him. He said that he run things in Dominica. He has been involved in certain acts or commissions which would suggest that the laws have been broken. So we have to change that, Lofty. We definitely have to change that. Lofty, I see that we're on the top of the hour. It is 9 p.m. It's always great to be here with the people of Dominica. We did not get an opportunity to really talk about UPP's plans and programs, but as you say, in a subsequent program, we'll get there. Lofty, we just want to remind the public that we'll be in Warner on the 19th. Is that correct?
Yes, Thursday. Thursday.
That's next Thursday. The United Progressive Party will be in Warner. So for those who are listening, those in Maho, Warner, and the peripheral area, please come to Warner on Thursday. Come join us. It's an open mic. Come share your view, because right now we cannot really sleep. We have to get off, that sleeping mode. We have to get out of slumber and to put our hands on deck, all hands on deck. We're going to make this happen. We're going to cause a change in Dominica. We ought not to just hang around and expect the change. We have to do the work. It's hard work, Lofty. And we have to go into the trenches. We have to soil our hands. We have to go into the nook and crannies. We have to go down to the ground to get Dominicans to make that change. It must happen, Lofty.
It's imperative. All right, Josh, I'll take your final thoughts in just a while before we pack our bag and make some tracks. Let's do this one from our brother who keeps standing at Debwash, Brother Nasir Fontaine. He calls this one Freedom. Huh? Final track, and then we're gone.
Now we're calling on the African National Council. We're calling on the Southwest African People's Organization. Now! Freedom. 100 children. Freedom. 100 bed no rise. Freedom. See my people crying for freedom. Freedom. And the children weep, and red blood runs deep.
So, folks, that is it for us tonight.
For freedom.
Those of you comments we did not read,
400 years now we've been working as you slept.
we apologize for that, huh?
Yes, let us have a separate ways.
But thank you for staying the course with us tonight from 7 o'clock.
Even though our freedom cause we need a liberation. Hey, freedom of expression. Freedom of speech.
As this has been another program
Written in the
from the United Progressive Party.
And the children.
George, I hate to say that, but any final thoughts from you, my brother?
Yes, I just want to urge our listeners to join us. Together we are getting this done. Together we are doing the work. Together we'll work hard, and together we will celebrate victory. Victory is around the corner, Lofty, but we got to do the work. We got to get Dominica back to a place where we can champion integrity, where we feel safe, where we have a situation where people can work and earn and not be dependent on the government. You know, the United Progressive Party is known as a job party, Lofty. I want the public to see us as a job party, a party that believes in creation of jobs, a party that believes in the expansion of the private sector, in the efficient use of public resources, a party that believes in efficiency, in high productivity, in exports, in agro-processing, in agro-industry, in agriculture, in green tourism, in the digital economy. We see in the United Progressive Party a scope for the financial sector to develop, create Dominica as a hub for offshore financial businesses, make the ease of doing business in Dominica better, to create a Dominica that has more social justice, to look out for the vagrants, to look out for the elderly, to pass legislation to safeguard the vulnerable people amongst us. And talking about social programs, Lofty, one of the first things that we would like to do is to build a rehabilitation center for the marginalized, the people who have fallen off the grid, and to build training centers for our young people, vocational centers, to give everybody an opportunity. Not everybody was born with academic inclinations. Sure. We just want to create a more just Dominica where people dignity can be protected, a Dominica where we make better use of our resources, to recycle our waste, to really live up to the movement where the world is going, the green economy, sustainable economic development. So, Lofties, once again, it was a pleasure. Let us continue to stand for Dominica. Let us continue to stand for the environment. Let us continue to stand for water conservation, for the ecological security, for biodiversity conservation. Let us continue to stand for a better Dominica. So together we are doing this. Together we walk in that journey.
Together we will. Together we must. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless Dominica.
So, folks, with those words, Joshua and myself will bid you a good night. Thank you every time for your eyes and ears. As you heard Josh shares, together we will accomplish the goal.
We need the freedom in a full equality.
Much food for thought tonight. Josh, we have a homework to do, from this gentleman from the East who called. And so next week, most likely, we'll put that list together of the justices of peace around the country to help facilitate the confirmation process. To our guest tonight, Brother Lennon Matthew, thank you very much as well for your contribution tonight. Very, very valid information as always from this brother. To all those grieving at this time,
and the children,
all those happy at this time, whatever your state is at this time, we at UPP, we share in those emotions. See you guys same time, same place next week if the good Lord above is willing. Bye-bye. We love you.
Genesis, down to Revelation. And so we are people, the 12 tribes of Israel. Jah Rastafari.